Hi everyone, and welcome to our Fab 3 knit-along. This is the second knit-along for the spring, featuring 3 fabulous projects. And I hope you're ready to cast on today, because officially it is cast on day. So project number 1 is called Lourdes, and this is a design by Jennifer Beale, a Canadian designer. And she is suggesting fingering weight yarn for this, and 3mm and 3.5mm needles, according to your tension, of course. And details on the project include A-line shaping, eyelets, beautiful lace work, stripes. It's knit top down, so there's no seams, drop sleeves. The sleeves are plain stocking stitch, so you get a nice mind break there from lace knitting. And the pattern includes charted and written directions. There are 4 sizes, and she is suggesting 5 to 15 inches positive ease. So the only problem with sizing on this design that we've had is some of the knitters fall in between the sizes, and because of the large lace repeat, it's hard for the designer to include in between sizes. So 3 colors suggested. Some of you have chosen 1 color throughout, which is going to be gorgeous. Some of you have chosen a main color throughout with just a contrast for the stripes. And I'm actually going to be working on Lourdes. I'll show you what mine looks like. And I'm using 3 colors. So that was project number 1 of the Fab 3. And I'll show you the different yarns in a moment. Project number 2 is called Triticum, and it's a design by Anne Hanson. If you followed our previous knit-along early winter, we featured her box top crop pullover, which was one of her other fabulous designs. This is knit from the bottom up in 5 pieces, so you have the traditional seams to sew after, and it incorporates a very pretty cable and lace motif part way up the back, part way up the bottom of the sleeves, and then all the way up the borders. It is worked also in fingering weight. Needles suggested are 3.5 and 4mm. It does have a 3/4 sleeve on the original pattern, but you can certainly make it into a full-length sleeve. Set-in sleeves. Some grafting is required at the back of the neck, so grafting like you would do on the toe of a sock. And she includes 8 sizes, from 34-inch finished bust up to 61.25. So that has been a popular one too, and I know some of you have chosen both. And feel free to say where you are, where you're joining us from. Have you cast on yet? Are you thinking about casting on this weekend? And which project did you choose? We'd love to know. The third design was probably the most popular choice, Valen. It's also a design by Jennifer Beale, and fingering weight on 3.25mm needles throughout. It's knit top down. The back is stocking stitch. The fronts have a lot of lace. The sleeves have partial lace and a fun stitch which incorporates a contrast color. Set-in sleeves, short rows, A-line, cables, eyelet, lace. 9 sizes, starting at a 29-inch finished width to 64-inch finished width. And there are 2 colors in here. So 1 color on the sleeves for contrast, and then your main color. So those are the 3 choices. I'm going to go over some helpful tips today to get you started, and there'll be some video links provided in the comments below for some of the techniques that you might be getting into this week to next week. And as always, anyone who signed up for a knit-along gets an entry ballot into our bucket. The grand prize draw will be at the end of the knit-along. We'll be here Fridays at 5 p.m. and then do a live prize draw to finish it up. And then each week we'll do a trivia question and give you a chance to answer in the comments at the end of the video. And if you have the right answer, we'll pick 1 winner each week, and they'll get another ballot into the draw bucket. Because if you have a reward to work towards, it makes it all the more fun. Okay, so I think I'll just show you quickly the yarn choices and then get into tips for you. So we had a choice of Allegria, which is beautiful, bouncy, soft, superwash merino, hand-dyed by Manos, a women's cooperative in Uruguay. And it has a combination of nylon for strength, so 75-25, and lots of semi-solid colors as well as speckled. And I think we had a few new colors in last week, such as this one, speckles in blues and soft aqua and sunshine yellow and a bit of green. So there have been some really good choices. Nobody has picked the same colors. I can't wait to show you pictures as they come in, progress pics of everyone's colors. For the contrast on Lourdes and Valen, you don't need much. You only need about 40 or 50 grams. We have Richard de Vries seed and speckles, semi-solid, variegated. And then the other choice of yarn is our in-house brand, that's Muskoka Yarn Goddess. And this is called Fusion. It's a combination of merino with cashmere and nylon. So you get that beautiful halo bloom as you're knitting with it and then after blocking. So that's also an option in the semi-solid tones. Okay, so I will bring up to the camera my choice of colors so you can see. So I'm working on Lourdes by Jennifer Beale. Well, first of all, I'll show you the three colors. So this is my contrast color 1. It's a pretty silver gray, very neutral. This will be at the top of the pullover on the yoke. And then I'm using, for contrast 2, I'm using Richard de Vries seed in a very long color name, Warp Speed Dark Matter. So that has all the pops of color to sort of pick up the other two shades. And then my main color at the bottom of the pullover is going to be Copper, which is hand-dyed by Manos in the superwash with nylon. So I haven't got to this color yet, but at least I can show you the first two colors knit up and see if you approve. Hi, Catherine. Catherine has just cast on Triticum in Fusion Colorway Sweetgrass. Oh yes, can't wait to see some pictures of your progress. So I have started from the shoulder line. This is now heading down the back of Lourdes. So I finished the short row section. The front stitches are on a holder. And the back, of course, is just going back and forth until the armholes are complete. And then I'll have to do the front in the same manner and join it in the round to knit the body down. So you can see there are short rows in this section here too, which provide the scallop to shape itself without puckering. And I'm loving this seashell pattern, or you could call it the scallop pattern, and the little wrap stitch below it. And just enough lace to keep it interesting. So that is my progress this week, and I'm sure I'll have more to show you next week. And then we also have the Valen progress by one of our knit-alongers. I also want to say welcome to 2 last-minute knit-alongers who signed up today. Welcome, Cindy, and welcome to Rosemary. So this is the beautiful lacework Valen, and this is knit in Allegria. So this one has also started at the shoulder section. It's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle. I hope you can get a good visual. So the shoulders transition into the back. So this stocking stitch section is the back. Nice and breezy, back and forth. And then the front section is the collar. It's like a loose shawl collar that wraps around and makes you feel comfortable and hugged. So this is working down, and you can see the armholes here will be picked up, and the sleeves will be worked down from there. So 2 armholes and the lace. So it's going very well. Maybe that's a better example, just to show you how the collar will frame around the face. Wonderful. Okay, so let's just go through the pattern notes, and if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments, or you can send a message. I'll put the links down below for each of the patterns in case you haven't had a chance to look at them yet. It's never too late to sign up. April showers bring more knitting hours, and of course May flowers. So imagine, you know, going into May and the flowers are blooming. The weather is much nicer than it has been lately for us in Ontario, and you've got a brand new cardigan or pullover that you're wearing, and your friends are just looking and admiring it, saying, when did you have time to knit that? Well, during all the April showers. Okay, so Lourdes, it's like a little booklet by Jennifer Beale. Her patterns are so well written, highly technical, the sort of pattern where you'll get lost if you read too far ahead. So we always suggest that you just read one section at a time as you're working on it, and hopefully then you're not confused. Sometimes you might have to read it 2 or 3 times to make sense of it. So this is, what can I say about it? It's a pretty straightforward pattern, and we were just mentioning today in our knit-along group that Jennifer Beale does like to have you cut your ends more often than not. So I've noticed that when I've started working my first stripe, which is just reverse stocking stitch in CC2, the speckled yarn, that she was asking me to cut my contrast one, which is the light gray. But because I'm only doing 4 rows to make a stripe, I really don't need to cut that color. So I'm suggesting to you that you ignore her suggestion of cutting the color each time. You're going to have too many ends to sew in, and it gets a bit bulky around the underarm where you're going to have to pick up stitches, even though it's a very fine yarn. So if you are looking ahead and she says cut a color, but you see that you're only using the new color for a few rows, just carry it along the edge. It's not going to show, and it saves time sewing in multiple ends. So that's my important tip for Lourdes so far. I don't think I've really gotten in further than page 8. Yes. So as you're working through the charts, again, we use the little sticky highlight sticky strips to read our charts, which you can pick up at any stationery store like Staples or where else? The dollar store. So just little highlighted strips that you can pick up and move as you do each row in the chart. That will help you stay on track. Also, getting your charts enlarged is helpful. You could use a highlighter marker to mark off each row as you go, and also color code the symbols. Color coding all the little symbols that match up to your chart with different color highlighters will help at a glance to let you know what that abbreviation means without searching through the list of abbreviations. And a lot of the knit-alongers are saying markers are especially important for aisle Valen. So the cardigan there with the lace repeat, if you put markers between the repeat section, the more markers you have, the better. You just have to remember that with this lace pattern, the stitch count changes from row to row, so you're going to have to move your markers accordingly. Also think of lifelines too. I'll put a video link down below so you can understand what lifelines are used for. They're very helpful when you're doing a repetitive lace pattern, and for example, if you make a mistake, it's very hard to undo the lace and get all the stitches back if you're picking back row by row by row. If you have a lifeline, say 4 rows back, 6 rows back, you can take the stitches off your needle and successfully pull them back, because the lifeline will be holding the yarn overs and the actual stitches in place, and you won't lose them. So those are tips from the knitalongers who are into Isle Valen. And then what can we say about Triticum? Triticum does give side shaping, so side shaping along the back. After you finish the back welt or the back hem, the designer is going to have you decrease to a certain number of stitches and then increase both sides up to the armhole. So if you don't like a fitted cardigan, if you want something that's kind of boxy and short, then you can omit the side shaping. So the number of stitches that you cast on, you'll go straight up in the pattern, and that will be the same number of stitches that are at the underarm. So that's a good note to remember. Markers will be handy for Triticum too, because on the back you do have a section of lace in the center with cables, and it's nice to see where the repeat starts and ends. The charts in Triticum are a little bit small. This is a good size chart here for the front borders, the lace borders, but you can also have those enlarged at a print store. So the other thing we'll talk about in the next week, because really you're on the back, you're not going to worry about the fronts yet, but think about it. If you want to have less fullness at the front, if you don't want to have so much shawl collar bunched up around your neck and hanging in the front, because there is no neck shaping, what you see at the front border is exactly what you're going to get around the back of your neck. Some of the projects shown on Ravelry show that knitters have taken out one panel on each side, which is only 16 stitches, but that's, 2 or 3 inches on each side, which you might not need. It's going to save yarn, and then it will make it less full, and the fronts will hang a little smoother. So think about that. We will discuss that further as you get to that section, but it's certainly very workable. It doesn't disturb the pattern aesthetics. It's just reducing from, where is my photo? Reducing from this section, which is quite full. For me, that would bother me in any type of wool because my neck is sensitive, so I might feel a bit of a prickly sensation. So instead of having the 3 pattern panels here on each side, we would take only the 2, and that's just part of the stitch repeat. So that's something to consider. Also, this knitter has used the longer sleeve version, whereas the actual pattern is just a 3/4 sleeve. Also on the Isle Valen, you'll notice that the length is extremely long. I think it's about 30 inches from shoulder to cast off, which is past the hip. For some of you, you might have to shorten that. So you want to shorten that by not just the number of rows, you want to shorten it by pattern repeat. Also, the sleeves are exceptionally long, which is great if you're tall, but if you're not, you may have to shorten it in the stocking stitch section before that lacy cuff. You can shorten it in the lacy cuff, but that's really what presents itself as a feature. So why not shorten it in the mid-sleeve section, which is straight stocking stitch. So something else to think about. Lourdes is pretty average in length. I don't think you'll want to lengthen it or shorten it. You also have to go with how much yarn you have purchased for the projects. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a little background on the names of each of these designs, where the inspiration comes from, and then lead into our trivia question. So Isle Valen is actually a place in Newfoundland where the designer lives. All her designs are featuring a different name of a town in Newfoundland. So it was first settled in the early 1800s very small town, and by 1960 the population was at 0. So it's officially a ghost town now, and there have been people who've gone, looking for remnants of the ghost town, and they have found some of the homes where the previous occupants lived in the early 1900s. And Lourdes is inspired by another small town on the west coast of Newfoundland, right on the outside tip, and it's still there. It has a very small population of about 500 people. And that leads us to our trivia question. Okay, what does the word Triticum mean? It is a word that inspired the design by Anne Hanson, so we want to know what it means. And I'll leave that question open till Sunday morning, so you have a chance to watch the video on the weekend and participate in the comments below. And I'm also going to put a video link below for the Sunday wraps. So there are different ways of doing the short rows, and most of you know the wrap and turn method. You know the German short row because we've used that in previous knit-alongs, but you may not be familiar with the Sunday wrap. It is completely invisible on the right side of the work, especially in stocking stitch, so it's worth learning how to do it, and I've been doing it on my project. Once it's blocked, of course, it'll be completely invisible. Right now it just leaves a bit of a raised stitch or a bump. So that is something that you need to know for Lourdes and also Isle Valen. So look for the link below, and thanks everybody for watching. I hope you have a great cast on day or cast on evening, and be sure to post pictures in the event page so we can see how your colors are emerging, because what you show inspires other knitters, as we know. And I'll be back next week. We may not be here on Friday. I'll let you know the replacement date, because we do have a spring things pop up that we're getting ready for, and Friday looks like it's going to be very, very busy here. So enjoy your weekend and hopefully get some sunshine.